Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here with two-thirds of the panel. Certainly the Honorable Joe Oliver and Sandra Pupatello. Gary Marr sends his regrets today. Sandra, we were talking about the latest controversy with the state of India. I'd love to get your reaction to this. How did you react when you heard this story?
So my initial thoughts are how difficult it is for all of our work that we've done historically to build relationships with India. Remember, it's been decades since we kept saying we need to pivot. We've got to get more of South Asia. And the work that our bureaucrats have done and other ministers that have come before me, and certainly my time there in that post, where we got to know the players, got to know the businesses, wanted their investments, brought Canadian companies there, and really thought we were on a roll there. As modest a beginning as the trade numbers showed, we were doubling or trebling, but obviously from a low base. Especially recently with all these changes in our relationship with China, it just seemed like we need to pivot more towards India. So when these things happen, it's a huge setback for the economy and the potential of relationships economically between our two countries. Now, having said that, I am also of the belief that if the Prime Minister of India knew that Canadian citizens were being murdered for whatever reasons related to India, his first thought would be to pick up the phone, call our Prime Minister, and say, we may not agree politically with those people that live in BC or whatever that groups that they don't like, but we're with you. We want to get to the bottom of how this happened.
Right.
We don't want that kind of linkage with our country. But I haven't heard that from that Prime Minister. He runs a massive country, huge democracy. He needs to be worried that there is that level of violence in his own country over a political matter, just as we would with any of the separatist movements we've had in the past. We were terrified that we were so close to violence. So two democratic countries who have always been friends, suddenly, I don't see any discussion going on, just sort of, public activity like throwing diplomats out. And that doesn't seem to be the basis of where our friendship and our alliance was in the past.
Right.
That tells me that there may be more that we don't know that's been going on. I certainly take Joe's point. If something points to people coming into the country without us doing our own vetting, remember we've been accused of that by the Americans as well. We need to be able to prove that we've got a solid system that we can rely on for Canadians and the rest of the world.
No, excellent points, and obviously we'll be following this story. I'm sure more information will come out in the weeks ahead. But thank you for your initial thoughts. I appreciate that. Turning to the economy, Joe Oliver, obviously Canada's trade relationship with the U.S. has now become a U.S. election issue, or at least a point of that each candidate is making points on this, and both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump have said that they want to renegotiate our trade deal. I'd love to get your reaction on that.
Well, I think the whole issue of protectionism is a real concern, and it will happen irrespective of who gets elected. Although the concern seems to be a bit greater if Donald Trump is the next president, because he's been talking a great deal about that, and including talk about 200% tariffs and so on. Now, it's not clear to me anyway, and to other people, whether this is actually a massive bargaining strategy like the one that he used when he was dealing with NATO countries. He threatened to go out of NATO. People grasped their pearls, and they came up with hundreds of billions of dollars in extra military expenditure. In other words, they started moving up to the 2% that they had committed to. And after all, from the U.S. perspective, why should they finance a European defense if the Europeans aren't willing to do that? Well, in this case, it's pretty central to his campaign because he's targeting blue-collar workers, and he wants to bring the manufacturing back into the United States, home shore. If the other side opens up their markets, so that Ford or
Right.
GM actually operate in Europe, then maybe there won't be any tariffs. That would be a good thing, overall. But it is a concern, nevertheless, for
Right.
Canada, and we're just going to have to live through it, understanding that
Sure.